Yeah, that's something we often get. After a contest, people come to the stage and like, why did this guy not win? He made the biggest armor, he was so great on stage and everything. Like we are the ones who spend like 15 minutes backstage checking every step that they make just to see like how the progress was in the process of creating this armor. So sometimes it has to be trusted to us. Even if the stage presentation is sometimes not the most amazing thing that blows you away, it's the costume that is the feature.
How important is for you the stage presentation? Because we had a craftsmanship contest, so some cosplayers do a lot of work into the stage part of it. Some are like, yeah, it's a craftsmanship contest, so I go up and down. But how important is for you when you look at the contest?
It depends very much from contest to contest, because every contest has different rules. So, for example, it's possible that a contest is 50% about craftsmanship and 50% about performance, and then you really have to like look at both. But if it's purely about craftsmanship, then performance actually doesn't matter. But if you have two people that are just, you can't decide who's the best, and one of them has the best performance, then this could be a deciding factor. But it really depends on the rules of the contest.
I'm personally not that much of a performer, as I always prefer craftsmanship contests. And I think cosplayers nowadays know that when they make costume for a competition, they try to figure out what competition to join in. Is it just 20% performance or 50% performance? So you actually know what you're good at, and that's the competition you choose.
Now, next question will be a little bit difficult because the world is evolving, and we see in the contest more and more the 3D printing and the embroidery machines, and people, cosplayers always ask us if it's okay to bring like a 3D printed armor into the contest, and it's a difficult thing to judge. So, because we like to say, okay, if you do the model files, for example, if you do the files yourself, it's like craftsmanship because it's not an easy thing. But every judge in the competition is thinking differently about this.
For me also, I think those like expensive tools, because let's be honest, they're not cheap. Not everyone has access to them. So it's also not really fair to rank someone higher who has a super clean costume because it's made with like expensive machines. So sometimes you have to like really compare how they did it. But also with 3D printing, it's possible to buy files online and then print it, and it's still a lot of work to make it look good. But the designing it on the computer and like drawing the 3D shape, that's also a big part that we take into consideration that really counts towards the craftsmanship.
So we can say that if you're looking at 3D printing, for example, it's like when you work with aviation, you have to make the patterns, and it's 3D printing is the same thing. You have to make the patterns because if you're not making the patterns yourself, it's almost like downloading one uniform pattern and just do the cuts and do it in 3D.
Yeah, for me it's a very interesting question because people tend to disagree on that, which I already do.
That's why you have this question.
Because I don't think that it's has to do something with money or accessibility, because I personally think that everybody here has the possibility to have access to 3D printer somehow. For example, it's a technology that over the last years went into like every fourth household so far. And it's accessible with memberships in crafting stores, or you have other services to do that. And 3D modeling, everyone can do it for free, at home, with laptop PC, etc. So I don't think it's about accessibility. Like, of course, 15 years ago, when you only had the expensive 15,000 euro CNC machines in factories, of course, that's something different, but that's where movie props were made from. But nowadays, I think it's something that you don't have to be afraid if you take this stuff to conventions, to competitions. I personally like to work with 3D printing a lot, and if someone knows a lot about 3D printing, they also know that there is a big difference between a 3D print or a very well post-processed 3D print. For example, 3D prints. If you work with PLA, like the plastic 3D prints, and you work on a low scale where you want to see a lot of details, it's very hard. You have to do a lot of priming, sanding, and keep the structure in. If you work with resin prints, for example, they are very fragile. Like everything you do with it breaks. So you have to choose the right product to work with. You have to choose the right design, the right way to post-process it. You can also do like casts from 3D prints and cast them out of kind of like simple material, some stuff that I did, so my resin prints couldn't break. So there's actually a lot to it. Personally prefer when it comes to armor stuff that's supposed to be really shiny. I prefer the 3D prints over the casts because I kind of never managed to get my foam pieces as perfectly metal shiny as I want them to be, only the weathered stuff. So when I was working on like Jedi armor or something like that, I really needed the 3D print because I needed the smoothest surface that is possible. And when it comes to convention, of course, creating the 3D model means a lot. It's tough. Of course, not everybody is a 3D designer or an artist when it comes to that. But even the processes of slicing the 3D print, getting the print correctly, like, you know, if you ever had a 3D print with sword or something, and two pieces go together, like this little gap in between there, like, if you make that perfectly even so that nobody can see that there's two pieces connected, for example, that's already a good job, and that's stuff that we're looking for when we judge a competition in the bank.
Thank you. So, I want to ask a few things about you guys because I think that was a contest. What kind of materials do you work with? Which materials do you like the most? Because you have two different styles, I think, and it would be interesting to hear more about yours. So let's start with the materials you really like to work with.
I personally, as well as a partner, I like to work with EV info. That's very nice to work with, and also Wabla. But I also really like to work with fabrics, so also to make interesting textures. I like sewing as well.
My friends at CosplayHu's. Oh yeah, I'm back. Sorry. I think that was the cosplay show cutting me off before I can say that I don't really like working with foam that much. I work with it, I used to work a lot with it, but I like clean stuff. I want it as clean as possible, I want it to be shiny. I don't know if anybody saw me yesterday with my Peacemaker helmet. It was a wandering makeup mirror for some people. But you can only get that with a really smooth surface. It's something that you have in many industries, like in the car industry, when you have the same material, resin or what's it called, fiberglass, something like that, where you need the reinforced material to be strong and very sturdy and stiff, so you can get the good paints on it, and that's what I really love to work with. I recently started with a project from Elden Ring where I have armor with very, very small details on it. So I started to print it in resin print, and that's one thing that I mentioned before. It's something that breaks the stage or anything, so it's not usable for cosplay. So I started to work with making molds of it and casting it from rubber. So basically I have the same thing that I 3D printed, but now I have it in rubber and it's comfortable to wear and you can drop it on the floor. And that's actually stuff that I really like to work with because you really have the same surface, very smooth surface. You can give it the shiniest finish ever and without ever worrying that in the sun or when you move it too much that the foam breaks off the paint, for example.
So that means that you are doing a lot of sanding and priming and
Yes.
that's your life.
I live in a flat in Vienna, so you should see my bathtub when I finish with what you do.
Oh, you're doing it in the bathroom.
I do it in the bathtub, yeah, and it looks horrible. But alright.
Okay, I have a garden, so I could not imagine doing anything like that.
Yeah, especially people who work with foam, please tell me what do you deal with all the foam flying around when you work with the gravel?
Well, I always, when I'm sanding, I get a vacuum cleaner and I put the hose right through my leg, so it's right here. And then I'm sanding above, and it sucks most of the particles. And then I can keep using the vacuum cleaner to clean everything. I don't want to flush the plastic through the drain.
I am the third kind of person. I am doing the sanding. I have a cat. The cat just goes into the sand and carries all, not out, but all around the house. Okay, so let's talk a bit about your style. What kind of costumes do you like to make? So what's your style?
I think my style is like the complete opposite from Don Esteban, because I really love like nature themes and textures and horns and just fantasy stuff. And I don't like the super smooth, shiny surfaces on my costumes.
So we have two opposites here.
It's definitely the opposite.
That's a good thing for the contest. You are covering a lot of field, a lot of stuff.
For me, I don't really think I have a style. Somebody told me I just cosplay the bad characters in some art.
What's the style? The bad guy style?
The bad guy style, no, it's not a bad guy. Even though I guess you can play him as a bad guy. But usually it's when I play a game or watch an anime, I watch a movie or something, it's like when a character pops on screen and I'm like, wow, this guy, this impresses me. It's like, wow, and then, you know, you feel like a little connection to the character or to the scene or to the costume somehow, and that's when I decide if I want to do something. But apparently it seems that I have a style.
Okay, so another interesting topic is we have a lot of cosplayers. A lot of cosplayers want to do cosplay, maybe not as a career, but like getting someone who is a well-known person. So how did it change for you? Because you started as a cosplayer and at some point it changed.
Well, for me actually, I didn't plan to be a full-time cosplayer. I'm actually an ecologist, so forest maker. And when my job ended at the last financial crisis, yeah, I tried to do something with my art. So I made fleece hats with ears, and I started to sell them at conventions, and it went really well. So I kept doing that. And at the time there were no jobs to be found, so it was kind of the only solution.
So just for the people who are sitting here, so when you are going to a convention, you are selling patterns, and you have books, because you started to make books for the cosplayers. You have patterns, but you are selling finished products too?
Yeah, that's what I started with. So I sew hats with ears, and I also make hoodies with tails and wings, so dragon wings. I still have them in my shop, but it's more as like a memory to still remember how it started, because I kept so I started with making the hats and the hoodies and selling them. Then I also made costumes, and people started asking me how I made the costumes, so I started making tutorials. And then they wanted to get my patterns, so I made patterns and started selling them. Then it got more and more. At the point I started writing books about cosplay, and the hats and the hoodies are just more of a memory, but they're still there. And now it's cosplay patterns and tutorials full time, and I'm really grateful that that's possible.
It's really helping people to start with their cosplays.
Over the years, I've been meeting many people who live off cosplay, like Pretzl, for example, and I admire them. I love what they do for the community. I love their communities that they're building. And a few years ago, I myself was, let's say, at a crossroads decision where I was, you get a calls from publishers or from corporations or do advertisements for someone something, and it's like pressure that you feel there, and then you see like, okay, it would be becoming like work somehow. So I started to talk to some friends in the community, like Ben, for example, I think everybody knows my cosplay, and to get the feeling of how this works for him. After some talks, I made a decision for myself that I don't want to enter this as a professional and make this for a living, to keep it as a hobby. Doesn't mean you can't be a professional cosplay judge when it comes to that, but for me, I think if I would make a living of it, it would change the way I see it. I'm just afraid that I might lose interest or the fun, the joy that I have right now.
There are deadlines, and sometimes there's a demand for special characters that are trendy or trending or something new, and you have to make that and not what you like to do.
Yeah, and it's a tough job. It's really tough. You just see, you saw the line Karen, for example. It is tough. This guy didn't have a lunch break for some time because he wanted to talk with everyone, for example. It's how he is. It's great, but I'm happy that I chose kind of like a different part and work marketing now.
We were actually traveling, we both were traveling to Pueblo as cosplay guests, or visited many conventions in multiple countries. Is there a country or convention that you especially liked, or maybe a cosplay contest that was special that you really liked?
I'm actually yesterday. I really like the Hungarian community. It's not something I can say everywhere. I really, I really like you guys. But the craziest thing I've been to is the Baltics. Like, how many contestants did we have yesterday? 18?
I mean, how many contests we had here?
Another contestant yesterday for the Baltics.
Yes, 18. But I know what you will talk about because I was there in Latvia.
Yeah, I have to imagine like 80 people in the backstage judging. We took like 1 hour and a half maybe or something like that. It's great. But when you go to Latvia or some other Baltics country, they have a different mindset when it comes to them. They're like, I buy a new costume or I make a new costume, I have to present it on stage. So there's like over 100 people each day entering the cosplay competition. So you're backstage like forever. So we end becoming up with the question when people enter the judging room like, do you buy a costume? Do you even want to be here? No, I just want to be on stage. Okay, thank you. So we just can't get more time into it because it was like every one of them people they had 5 minutes time slot just to talk with us.
Yeah, but I know what you're talking about. I was there as a judge once, but I didn't know the number of the contestants. It was a surprise. I got there and we were sitting in the kids. So how many contestants? 80 today, 100 tomorrow. Because
actually we also like to go around and see stuff. So yeah, it's not possible if you're in the Baltics as a cosplay fan.
Yeah. Do you have any big cosplay plans or a special costume you didn't do yet but you really want to do?
Well, I told you that I started selling my hats at convention, right? That's when I made my Facebook page, Pretzl, and Instagram. And that was in October 2014. So that means this October, Pretzl is existing for 10 years. And I'm kind of feeling the pressure to have to make something very epic to celebrate. But I think I want to make something that really shows my style over the years and the things that I really like. And make a combination of that. So something with maybe antlers or horns and some armor pieces with a lot of detail. And probably the color scheme will be all green. But I think that will be fun. So it should be ready.
We are waiting for it, looking forward to it. When you got into cosplay, how did it even start with cosplay for you? What was the first cosplay you saw, or how did you think about cosplaying first?
When I was a student, I moved to a new flat with two girls living there, and I was just a nerd. And I was having...
That's obviously sort of guys. Oh, I went with my female friends and suddenly I went to cosplay.
No, I didn't even know them. I was a student, you just take the cheapest flat that's somewhere and then you move in with people who you don't know and you tend to hate after a few years usually. But actually I still like them. And I was just, as I said, a nerd, dropping lightsabers and putting them on the walls and stuff like that. And then they approached me one evening and they said like, "You're a cosplayer too." I'm like, "Oh, what?" No idea what it is, and so they introduced me into that, and they said, "Yeah, we're going to a convention in 2 weeks, you have to come." It's like, "What's your favorite anime that you're watching?" Like, Fairy Tail, for example, it was 3 years ago. And then they said, "Yeah, we got one character, and we make the costume with you," and then, yeah, that's how I got kind of like bullied into the cosplay community by two girls, but it was amazing, it was lovely. And if anyone's interested, it was Laxus from Fairy Tail. Most
For me, it was a little bit different how it started. When I started making costumes, I never heard the word cosplay, but I just, actually, yeah, there is a lot of the rings book, right? I wanted to be an elf. So I made nice long dresses, and of course I wanted to be an elf. You're like, of course.
Because I always want to be a princess or an elf first. I wanted to be an elf first too.
I wanted to be a dwarf, that's why I grew a beard.
So that's how it kind of started with making the costumes. And in the Netherlands, we have each year a fantasy festival that's outside, like around Castle Gardens. And I started in 2002. And I made a new costume. It was super simple back then, like just a simple dress. Every year, one every year. And in 2010, I think, I found out that cosplay existed. And I made my first cosplay, which was the evil queen from Snow White and the Huntsman. And I made the crown with cardboard from like a box that the flowers from the plant store came in. And I still have the crown.
Actually, I cut you off because I asked about the future big costume plan and I left you out.
Do you care?
You should be here. Let's be here.
No, actually, just a story, this guy back there, the Witcher, back then it was like my dream cosplay, but then I saw Ben doing it and like, oh, it's so great, I will never do it, it's amazing. But then I actually, by coincidence, I had to meet him, I saw his cosplay and I talked with him, and after that, I was like, okay, it's just a guy, it's just a costume, I can do the same, I can do it better, I said to me. And then I actually started the project, so it was actually a very big motivation meeting with a guy, and this is what was back then one of my most ambitious costumes. I'm very happy that I won the Euro cosplay contest with that a few years ago. And until then, I usually made like kind of smaller projects that rather fit in my flat. But recently I started with ambitious cosplay again. It's from Elden Ring. I don't know if anyone knows Godfrey. It's a big character. A few Elden Ring players. He has a big lion on the head, on the shoulder, sitting. It's a crazy project where I already ran out of space because I tried to fit the X in my living room and it didn't work. So it's kind of coming along, but it's buried in somewhere in the flat. So I need to find like a workspace so I can actually finish this cosplay in the next maybe 1 or 2 years. Would be lovely.
How many costumes do you make in a year?
Well, actually, now not as much anymore as when I started my Patreon, because then I thought, yeah, was the way that you have to finish a costume every month and then make rewards from it. And it was exhausting. Those years were really way too stressful and I shouldn't have done it. And now, last year, I made 4 costumes, but one big one and all 3 were from my book that I wrote. So, and those are more simple. But still, it was enough. I was busy all the time. At the end of the year, I looked at it and I thought, I only made 4 costumes. And I should have made 12. And it felt really stupid. But actually, it's okay. I made many tutorials of it. I made a lot of videos and I could help so many people with the patterns of those cosplays that I made that it's absolutely more than enough. So don't be fooled and don't think that you have to make a new costume for every convention or even every month, which is absolutely totally impossible. Just do it at your own pace. The most important thing is that you keep enjoying it. Because believe me, there was a point I didn't like it anymore. And now I like it anymore.
I'm pretty sure it's for everyone that you can think back at the good old times where you still had more time. That was the time when you were able to finish a costume every month.
And we were at school again the summer break.
Yes, of course.
We are all crying about the summer break, but we don't have it anymore.
You're a student and you don't give a shit about anything, so you can just make costumes instead of going to class for example. So, it's like, yeah, cosplay a month was totally possible back then, but now it's like we have maybe 3 a year if it comes up, because you have a busy life, stressful life. I mean, even you said it's your work, you do the cosplay, but you don't have time to even make costumes. It's the same when you work a job, that you sometimes you're too tired in the evening to work on costumes. So what I started with, I really block my weekends, or I take the days where I have more free time just to hyper focus on doing the costume, for example. So I really take 3 or 4 days and get as much done as possible, and so it can still be enjoyable. And what you mentioned, the things that before you get frustrated with the costume, it happens to everyone at some point. Just take the costume, put it in a corner for quite some time. You will come back with new thoughts, with fresh energy, and then you can take it back. Never work on a costume when you are frustrated on it. Just because there's a deadline or something. Deadline can be pushed, for example. Don't worry about it. Never use the joy in what you're doing. That's really important.
In the last 5 minutes, I can have some more questions, but I would like to give the chance to the people here, because we have 5 minutes left. If there is anything you want to ask, either ask here, either just come here, and if someone wants to ask questions, then you can do it here.
I have another question. It's gonna sound like awfully like a job interview. How do you see yourself as a cosplayer in like 5 or 10 years? What is your plan? How do you think about, like you said, you don't want to take it as a profession, to not to burn out. But like, what is your plan for the future?
First of all, I'll be very happy in 10 years, because usually the characters I make are very older people, so I don't have to dye my beard anymore or draw wrinkles on my face. So that I got that going for me then. But yeah, I still want to do the same thing that I do right now. Just keep working on my company and keep cosplay as a hobby. I still have it in my life. I have it incorporated on many levels. We recently started a project in Austria where we bring cosplay to school. For example, it's a pretty cool project. It's like those 10 to 15 years old, and you incorporate the crafting into the school process. It's something like I really like to do, like bring the cosplay community to new horizons. But I I will still decide to not make it my daily job.
I hope for the future that I can keep making like tutorials and patterns to help other people with cosplay. And in 10 years, I hope I will have a family and that I can inspire my children to also be creative and use their imagination and maybe cosplay together. Yeah?
Hi, my question is about judging and jurying that stuff. So I know, there are usually multiple juries, and you each give a rating, I suppose. Do you talk it over with the other judges, or do you just give each other one and you don't talk about it? And do you discuss the ratings?
It's a very good question because many people probably don't know what's going on behind doors. Let's say there's multiple types of contests. There is some contests where you get a judging sheet where it says like accuracy, detail, materials used, etc. And you as a judge, you give points for every section. You hand the paper over to the organizers, and you as a judge have no idea what happened afterwards, which actually I don't like. I think we don't like it because people have different ways of judging the points, and especially the first person that starts sets the bar, and that's always very difficult. So we actually prefer like talking it over afterwards. Takes more time, of course, but you find like all the different opinions going to very well and opens new thoughts for everyone. And I think that's a better way to reach the decision. And it's, as far as I've been a judge, it's for like 80% of the contests do it like that. You have a chance to discuss the winners.
Yeah, for me the same. I like when you can make your notes because it's true. With the first contestant, you have no idea what the rest will bring. So it's really hard to give points because you don't know what to compare it with them. So making notes about everyone and later talking with each other about what's really good about this one and really love the techniques that they use and this one was absolutely amazing on stage, and then together you can make a decision. It's not easy, but I think it's a good
We have time for the last question. The last question. Someone else. Okay, here's the last question.
So I'm going to ask you guys about the costume that you're wearing right now. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're wearing right now?
I love cyberpunk. It's I've been like playing the what is it called, not done the pen and paper. Everyone knows Dungeons and Dragons, but actually cyberpunk was a pen and paper not way before, but for a very long time too. I've been playing that, and I was so happy when the game came out, and when I first saw the design, I was like, I fucking love this, especially since it's a customizable character. I can use my own face, I can just grow my hair, whatever it pleases, like, so very comfortable to wear. And it's a very ambitious project that I made together with 4 friends, because 3 friends and plus 1, we wanted to have all the same jackets, for example, so it was a very fun project to work with this. We could separate the steps on the jackets for each of us, so we kind of had like a streamlined work, and then in the end we had 3 jackets of the same size.
For me, I'm wearing original design Viking fantasy and pirate costume. It just combines all of things that I like, with fantasy and nature, colors, and folklore, and looking badass like a warrior. And also another costume.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we can say that the time is up. Thank you so much for being with us today. And you can still meet you at the
Thank you very much.